Whenever I speak on the issue of migration, one of the things I say is, first, migration is an incredibly complex issue. And if people don't actually understand that complexity, either they aren't listening to the facts or they aren't paying attention to the reality. The second thing I say is migration is an incredibly simple issue. And if people don't realize that, either they aren't kind of paying attention to the facts or they aren't listening to the reality. And I think both of these are necessary. We have to deal with both the complexity of the issue in terms of understanding its difficult dimensions, but also what the core issues are that are at stake. When people are vitriolic to the issue of migration, for me it's important to do a bit of an X-ray of the heart to say what's going on there. And this is not really an argument between good people and bad people. This is often even good people who have legitimate concerns that are trying to really struggle with some of the complex issues that are at stake. That's not to say really kind of nefarious people don't also get involved in this, but what I think is important here is you've got to lay that out a little bit. Now the sound bites of the news really do no justice to this because they just dualize it and simplify it in ways that actually don't do justice to what the truth of it is. But it takes a little while to lay this out, but I think we have to look at fears of security. We have to look at fears of losing a way of life. We have to look at issues of identity that are at stake. And there's a lot of changes that are going on. What some people do, though, however, is people will then ignite and really manipulate the politics of fear for their own personal gain. We have to cut through that and penetrate that and say this actually not only does not do justice to what the reality is, but actually it does injustice in many ways and to many people. So what actually, to me, is one of the most important tasks of this theology of migration is to actually tell the human story that's at stake here and to try to bring out the human face of the migrant and then to talk about the face of Christ in the migrant. That's one thing. The second thing is we need to reflect a lot about identity, because as we get into this othering of the migrant, it's a question of who am I and who is the other. What we have to do is broaden this out a little bit, because where this short circuits most often is on the issue of national identity. I'm an American, this is mine, this belongs to me, stay away, I'm going to protect it, I'm going to guard it, I'm going to keep you away from trying to steal it. That's a narrative. However, if the task of migration theology is not just to build walls, but to build bridges, because one, it's not ours to begin with. Catholic social teaching would say, at best it's on loan to us. You know, what we've been given in trust, and that really in the end, when we die, we're going to have to give it up, and we'll be judged on how we use what we've been given. So it's a different narrative to say this is mine and I earned it and I need to keep it, versus everything is a gift. This has been entrusted to me and I will be judged how I use what I've been given in the end of the day. So what we need to do is open up and broaden the identity beyond just who I am as an American, if you will, or an Australian, to basically who I am as a human being and who I am before God. If we can do that, we can see it's not about us and them, but it's about all of us. And then that kind of relativizes sort of this in such a way that we recognize that this dualism doesn't really hold. The other thing is that we have to ask in the end of the day, where is our ultimate security? And we often think it's in our weapons, it's in our power, it's in our money, it's in our status, and therefore this is all being threatened. I think when we recognize that, no, all this stuff will go away, and that in the end of the day, their deepest security is in God and in God alone, and we need not live out of fear. And not only that, Pope Francis says what we really need to cultivate is a culture of encounter. Once we encounter people, especially those who are different, we might find very surprisingly that we're enriched by them in ways that we never could have imagined. And as a church too, as Lidio Tomasi once aptly said, when we see their capacity to believe in the midst of the unbelievable, to trust in the midst of the most godless of situations, and even to really love in the midst of great evils, it's not that the church saves the immigrant, but it's the immigrant who saves the church.